It's been a while, guys, but that's okay. I'm just gonna throw this out there and it's gonna be great, and we're just gonna kickstart right back where we left off. But with kickstarting right back where we left off, I lost my notebook with all my subscribers in it. And so I decided to start again, this time doing it a little bit differently. And so my first ever 3 subscribers on this channel, day one, is Grey Ghost 99, Scott Stump F, and Trevor Sommer. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and being true subscribers from day one, which was now like 366 days ago, something like that, or maybe even more. But thank you guys so much. Now let's get into this. This is where we left off a year ago. And I am so mad at myself for letting this slip, but we are doing the Atla Palani deck tech today, and it comes in this box. Now, there's a little bit of a controversy with this box. It's an Amazon box. Everyone's like, oh, that box is so cool, where can I get it? And I posted a link to it, and people were like, bro, just tell us it's a freaking Amazon box. It's an Amazon box. And I'm like, okay, it's an Amazon box. But the Atla Palani deck tech has to start somewhere. So we're going to start with the overall mechanic. Atla here is a 4-cost. And when you pay 2, you can tap her and she creates an egg token. And that's this one right here. And so we're going to be figuring out how we can manipulate those egg tokens. And I haven't taken this deck out in a minute. I haven't taken a lot of my magic stuff out in a minute. So let me just get through some of these things so I can find our, what are they called? Mechanic manipulation pieces, the ones that we want to get in our hand to make this whole thing work. I wish I had taken all this stuff out sooner, because it's just been a really long while since I've done any magic stuff. So I'm kind of rusty and not really in it, but that's not going to stop me from regurgitating all the information I can and hopefully salvaging my channel after abandoning it for a whole freaking year, which I'm still really sorry for. I hate doing that, but it's just been a stressful time, but it's all good. It's all good. That's just... okay. So we have the rest of the deck, and then we've got our mechanic manipulation here. So this stuff right here is what our main combo includes. And so when Atla is tapped, she creates a 0/1 green egg creature token. And so that's this guy right here. So the first thing that we are gonna do, we want that egg to die like instantly. So we can look through our library that's from the top down for a creature and just put it onto the battlefield, because that's what we want to do. And so our first card that is going to help us with that is Marauding Raptor, which creature spells cost 1 less to cast. We're not really looking at it for that, but we're looking for this mechanic. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This is like the key card, because when we tap Atla here, creates an egg, Marauding Raptor will trigger, it will deal 2 damage to the egg, which immediately it will die, which means we get to search our library for a creature. Then the next 4 cards here are sacrifice outlets. And so they're basically free, sacrifice a creature, do damage. And so that includes Goblin Bombardment, which we can just sacrifice an egg and deal 1 damage to our opponent. Same thing with Street Urchin, although we have to pay 1 to sacrifice another creature, and it deals 1 damage elsewhere. Then Makeshift Munitions is another pay 1. And then Shake the Foundations is deal 1 damage to each creature without flying. And so if we stack up a lot of eggs, that's a good way to get them all off the battlefield at once. And so those are our 4 sack outlets, or board wipe for us at least. And all of that's red. So now let's get into these 2, which is an unholy combination. So after the Outlaws set came out, I found this card in a booster pack, and I love it. This is called Annie Joins Up. When Annie Joins Up enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So that's a good way to get rid of a medium-sized creature. And then if a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Now, when Atla Palani triggers, we get to trigger it twice. And so we create an egg, then once that egg dies, we get to search our library, and then we get to search it again. But when we put Mondrak into play, if 1 or more tokens would be created, you create twice that many. And so now when Atla becomes tapped, we create 2 eggs. And then once those 2 eggs leave the battlefield, you search your library for 4 creatures, one after another. And so this combo right here, combined with either of these, can cause a lot of damage, especially when you're making a lot of tokens, a lot of eggs. A couple cards that I wish I had in this deck is Anointed Procession, Doubling Season, and I think it's Parallel Lives. So those would be some good cards to put in here, because then Mondrak and those could work together to create more of these egg tokens, and we would literally drain our library of creature cards, which is a good thing considering what creatures we do have in this deck. And so those are our mechanic manipulation deck cards, the ones that are key to our deck doing what it's supposed to do. And now let's just go through these, and let's get all of our creatures out that are going to help us accomplish success in beating our opponents. And there's a couple of these creatures that I do want to trade out, but I don't have a whole lot of creatures that are going to work 100% the way I want them to. So we've just got a lot of big creatures in here that are going to be really good. So let me just finish finding them all. That's all of them. Okay, so here are our creatures. We'll just start from the top and go down. Witty Roastmaster. He has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. So paired with Atla Palani and Mondrak, this is a good creature to have on the battlefield, because we're constantly going to be creating creatures, and so that's a good way to get some damage. Now, Verdant Sun's Avatar whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we gain life equal to its toughness. Because the eggs have 1 toughness, every time we make an egg, we get a life. And then we also have some pretty big creatures in this deck, and so might as well get a lot of life gain from that guy. He himself is also big. Then we have Zatalpa Primal Dawn. This is going to be more of a dinosaur tribal style deck you'll start to see, but this guy is basically just a walking nightmare because he's got flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible, and so he's a good one to get onto the battlefield. Then Tyrannax Rex. This one can't be countered, trample, ward 4, haste, toxic 4. It's another big dinosaur that you can have on the battlefield, and also 3 hits from this guy and you're dead because he has toxic 4. Toxic is a side mechanic in this deck. It's not really one that's too important. Then there's Thrasta Tempest Roar. None of her abilities are really important to this deck other than the fact that she's a big dinosaur. So here's a little bit. She has trample over planeswalkers, trample, haste, and so when we use the egg mechanic, we can use this in combat right after. Apex Allosaur is one of those dinosaurs that I really want in this because when we have Marauding Raptor out on the battlefield, it can automatically trigger the Enrage ability of Apex Allosaur, which is really good because we want some more dinosaurs with Enrage in this deck. And Gigantosaurus, just another big dinosaur. Then Zakama, Primal Calamity, is a really good one. He has a bunch of good effects, and when he enters the battlefield, if you cast him, you can untap all of your lands, which is really good. Really like that. Just another big dinosaur. Then Gishath Sun's Avatar is another way to just get dinosaurs onto the battlefield. And so he also has haste, so when he comes out of our library using an egg, he can automatically attack, which can give us more dinosaurs. And then when we have Annie joins up, we can do that twice, and so we can get even more dinosaurs. And then Vaultborn Tyrant, just another big dinosaur. He's another one that's from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction set that was really good for this deck because he can make a copy of himself when he dies. And then he also gets us life and a card. Shifting Ceratops is just a dinosaur. This is one that I would probably want to replace with something that has Enrage. Then there's also a Raging Regisaur, which whenever he attacks, you can deal 1 damage to target creature or player. He's a dinosaur, so he fits the vibe of this deck, but also when he attacks, you can get rid of an egg. Then Unruly Mob is one of those that I would also replace with something that has Enrage. But it does have a cool mechanic that whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Unruly Mob. And since we're trying to kill all of our eggs and make our deck kind of empty onto the battlefield, this would come in handy because we just can put a lot of +1/+1 counters on it, especially if we get a good combo where we have like 10 eggs on the battlefield and then we kill them all at once. Titanoth Rex is just another big dinosaur, and he's a really good way to put a trample counter on something. So let's say Unruly Mob does get really big, we can cycle Titanoth Rex if we don't have enough mana for him, and we can give that a trample counter. But then we have Scalestorm Summoner, which is another really interesting card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I'm going to be mentioning these ones since it's one of the most recent sets that came out. But whenever he attacks, we create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token, which we only do if we control a creature with power 4 or greater. This is just a good way to get dinosaurs onto the battlefield, especially with the dinosaur tribal feel that we're going for here. But especially paired with Mondrak, we could get a lot of tokens out of this guy. Then Aggressive Mammoth is just a way to give all of our creatures trample. And I know he's not a dinosaur, so if I were to replace him, I'd replace him with something that has Enrage. Bellowing Aegisaur is a really, really good uncommon from Ixalan. And it has Enrage. Whenever he's dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. So not him, but everything else, which is a really good way to put counters on things. And if you pair it with Doubling Season, it'd be a really good... I think it's Doubling Season that puts counters on it twice as much as well. It'd be a really good thing. That's why I want more of this Enrage stuff, especially with Marauding Raptor and the wanting to wipe our board with damage and stuff. Rampaging Raptor is another one that I would have to replace with Enrage. It doesn't really have that much of an effect other than the fact that it's a dinosaur and it has haste. Thundering Spineback gives all of our other dinosaurs +1/+1, just another big dinosaur. Quartzwood Crasher is another big dinosaur. It's a 6/6, but the key with this one is whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal combat damage to a player, create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. That's a really good thing because the tokens are dinosaurs, which they fit the vibe of this deck, but also paired with Mondrak, you can get a lot more tokens out of it. And then we have Awakening Sun's Avatar. This wouldn't be a dinosaur tribal deck without this guy. He's basically a non-dinosaur board wipe, which is why we kind of have a lot of dinosaurs in this deck. And so he destroys all non-dinosaur creatures when he enters from your hand. Then we have Burning Sun's Avatar, which is a good way to deal 3 damage to target opponent and a creature, and so it's another way to get rid of an egg if you need to, but he's also just a big dinosaur. Everything in this deck is just big dinosaurs. And then there's Vigor, which is our last resort card, in my opinion. He is another thing that I would probably replace with a dinosaur with Enrage, but he is a really good card, and if damage would be dealt to any other creature you control, just put that many +1/+1 counters on it, and then whenever he dies, you just shuffle him into your library. And so he's a good way to kind of save your skin if you're getting close to death, especially if you have a lot of smaller creatures out on the battlefield, like the eggs, because you can just use them and they become really massive creatures. So those are our creatures for this deck. Let's move on to our spells, which if it's a ramp card, I'm just going to say ramp and move it to the side. So Scout the Wilderness is basically just a ramp card. Final Showdown is a really good board wipe that also can help in other ways. It's another one of those that's from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. You can axe everybody's creature's abilities just so you can swing in with all of these big dinosaurs, so that way you don't have any effects and things like that. Colossification is just another way. It's just a way to make your creatures really big. Tyvar's Last Stand is another way to save a creature but also make it really big. Ramp card, Seek the Horizon, Brave the Sands. Since our creatures are going to be getting really big, hopefully, Brave the Sands gives them vigilance and gives them the ability to block an additional creature. Forced Adaptation is a good way to make a creature big for cheap over time, so you can give him a +1/+1 counter at the beginning of the upkeep, not the end step. What am I thinking? Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Jaya's Inferno is a way to get rid of up to 3 creatures, and if you want to just stack mana into it, you can wipe away a big creature on someone else's battlefield. Bond of Discipline is an endgame card. I think we all know what it does. Tap all the creatures our opponents control, and creatures we control gain lifelink until end of turn. It's a really good one to just, hey, bye, you're done, especially if you have a lot of big things on the battlefield. Swords is just a good removal card. We all know what Swords is. Swallow Whole is as an additional cost to cast the spell, tap an untapped creature you control. Exile target tapped creature. put a +1/+1 counter on the creature tapped to pay this spell's additional cost. It's just a good way to get rid of something, and it's a 1 cost too, so it's kind of similar to swords, except you're giving one of your creatures a +1/+1 counter. Bitter Feud is a good way to annihilate another player because you can deal 2 damage between 2 people, but if you're playing with 3 people other than yourself, it's a good way to kind of feud them to attack each other, because then they deal double damage to each other. And especially if you've got some big creatures, that would be a real game changer. Reckless Rage is another 1-drop that we can deal 4 damage to a creature we don't control and 2 damage to a creature we do control, so that can get rid of an egg. This one, Evolution Charm, is just used as a ramp card. The Fork in the Road is another ramp card. Fungal Rebirth is a good way to help us get Marauding Raptor back from the graveyard if he dies, because Marauding Raptor is our kind of main star of the show in this deck, other than Atla Palani, and so that's a good way to get him back from the graveyard. Sol Ring's obviously a ramp card. Smite the Monstrous just destroys something with power 4 or greater. It's a good removal card. Hammer Hand is a good way to just give something haste for 1 mana. Sorry, I'm tired. Dinosaur Stampede, attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. Dinosaurs you control gain trample until end of turn. Just a good way to wipe the board with attack damage. Chromatic Lantern, anything more than 2 colors needs Chromatic Lantern. It's a ramp card. Decanter of Endless Water, also, especially if you have a lot of big creatures in your hand and you can't really play anything at the moment. It's a good way to keep them in your hand instead of having to discard them. Hold for Ransom, a good way to exile something temporarily. Nyx Lotus is a big ramp card for 3 color plus decks. Rhythm of the Wild, our creatures can't be countered, and they have Riot, which is really good, especially if you have something that doubles the +1/+1 counters. Decimate, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment and land. Just 1 of each. Riot Control, gain a lot of life, prevent a lot of damage. Pristine Talisman, gain 1 life, add 1 mana. Turn the Earth is a good way to get cards back from the graveyard. Thunderherd Migration is a good ramp card. Harvest Season is an excellent ramp card. Pulse of Marasa is a good way to get Marauding Raptor back from the graveyard. Blessed Respite is a good way to get your entire graveyard back to your library. Damning Verdict, basically board wipe. And since we have a lot of things that put +1/+1 counters on our creatures, it's a good way to keep our creatures safe. And then Privileged Position, other permanents you control have hexproof, because we don't want to be targeted with anything blue players are doing nowadays. So that's all that we got for this deck. I hope that you guys enjoyed me diving into how this deck works. And if you want some more gameplay against other decks of mine, then please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. This was the Atla Palani Deck Tech. Thank you guys so much. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.